Hello, welcome. We are going to be reviewing a past paper today. It's November 2025 past paper, and it's a paper one, non-calculator. And the main aim of this channel is to build an examiner mindset, making us think like the examiners, making us um, find how the examiners award marks. And for the most part of it, we are going to try to attempt all the questions and look at mark schemes and learn from there. So the first question here says find 1/4 of 20. That is straightforward, and this is just asking us. So whenever we want to find a quarter of something or a fraction of an amount, what we need to do is to divide that whole by that fraction. So what I mean by that is 20 divided into four places, and that gives us 5. So my answer here is 5. So if I was to go and look at the mark scheme, so the mark scheme for that should give me 5, and it should add CAO. That means correct answer only. So looking at the first one, it tells me the answer there is 5 CAO, and that means it's only the correct answer. It does not matter what you put. As far as the correct answer is on the line, you'll be awarded that mark. The second question there, write 310 as a decimal. So we're converting 310 as a decimal. That's straightforward as well. So that should give me 0.3. That's a 3/10. And you kind of pick that up from your place values. So that's where you learn that from. The third one says write down the value of root of 36. So what this means is what number multiplies by itself to give you 36. So those are your squared numbers. So that is 6, because 6 times 6 should give you 36. So in this, you're expected to know your squared numbers. So 1 times 1 should give you 1, 2 times 2 to give you 4, 3 times 3 should give you 9, 4 times 4 should give you 16, 5 times 5 should give you 25, and then your 6 times 6 should give you 36. So you're expected to understand what squared numbers are for you to be able to answer this question. So same as before, if I was to check my mark scheme, that should give me 6 CAO, correct answer only. Number 4, write down the first two multiples of 7. So this is about our multiples. Listing our multiples, that means it's in the times table of 7. So the first one is 7, because 7 times 1 gives us 7. The second one is 7 times 2, because 7 times 2, which is 14. So these are the first two multiples of 7, the numbers in the 7 times table. 5, 91% of the counters in the bag are red. What percentage of the counters in the bag are not red? So we are now in the world of probability, thinking about your percentage is. So once you see the word percentage, that means it's out of 100. That's the total, should be 100. So if we have red and not red, so the total is that 91% is red. So what percentage of the counters are not red? So to make up 100, we have to do 100, take away 91, and that is 9. So 9% should be correct. I'm just going to just go back to our mark scheme so that we can see that those answers there are correct. So 0.3, 6, 7, 14, 9, and all of these are just correct answer only. And so if I was to look here, your examiner will look at this and say, okay, this is accept 0.30, because they have looked at that as 3 over 10 is the same thing as 30 over 100, which would have been 300 over 1,000. So your examiner will accept if you were to add extra zeros, but just to be on the safe side, it's better for you to just give them this answer. And the other one says 6 accepts -6 and plus or minus 6. So that was for the question of square root of 36. Now, the reason why minus 6 is accepted, or plus or minus 6 is accepted, because minus 6 all squared will be minus 6 times minus 6. A negative times a negative will give me a positive, and 6 times 6 will still give me 36. And 6 times 6, which is a positive, times a positive will still give me 36. So that's why all of these are acceptable. If you're wondering why that is acceptable there. So that's for that. So let's go back to the next question. Just gonna go back to. So for this question, it says the accurate scale drawing shows a lorry. The scale of the drawing is 1 cm represents 2 meters. So that tells me that one for every 1 cm, it represents 2 meters in real life. So work out the length of the real lorry, give your answer in meters. So what we need to do is to use a measuring rule, which I don't have, but I'm going to improvise. So I'm going to use this set square to measure it, and then we need to align a 0 point and make sure we measure uh, accurately as much as we can. And I can see it's almost 7 cm, so I'm going to go with that. um, Questions like this, the mark scheme will always give us a range of values. So you can, if you can approximate at times, so it's okay. So I'm going to take that set square off. So I'm going to go with 7 cm. And so if 1 cm represents 2 meters, that means 7 cm. From 1 to 7, I've multiplied by 7, and on this side I need to also multiply by 7, and that gives me 14 meters. Always remember to put your answer in this area. If you don't put any answer there, that means you give the examiner the choice to mark whatever is on the paper. And if you were to present two solutions, they are going to give you the one with the lowest mark. So it's better to put your final answer on the dotted line, and then they walk backwards and see if all of your working supports that final answer. So let's check our mark scheme. And for that question, that's 14. So for measuring the length of the drawing as being 6.8 to 7.2, they will give you 1 mark. So once they see that you've put there that you have said 1 cm represents this, and you, if you were on the let's go back to that question again. Let's go back to that question. So if you had just, let's say, drawn a line and say that you think that here is 6.8, or it's 6.9, or it's 7, if you were to put any representation on that line, you will get 1 mark. And if you were now the second part of it, which says for process to use the scale, example, whatever length that you have chosen, you multiply that by 2. The length is in the, so if the length is in the range 5 to 10, it does not matter if that range is 6.8 or 7.2, which is the correct one. If you have chosen any length between 5 to 10 and multiplied it by 2, you get 1 mark. But if your length is between this range of 6.8 to 7.2, then you will get your 2 marks, even if your answer is not 14. So if you had used 6.8 and you multiplied by 2, because your measurement was in the right range, and you multiplied by 2, you will get both process marks, and you will get the final answer as far as your final answer is within that range. So in this one, Dylan chooses at random a letter from the word circle. On the probability scale below, mark with a cross X the probability that Dylan chooses the letter C. So let's look at our word again, circle. We have how many C's there? We have 2. So that's 2 out of 6. So looking at our scale is divided into 1 segment, 2 segment, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2 out of 6. The position 2 out of 6 is this one. So I am going to put my x at this position. Second part of it, on the probability scale, mark with the cross, mark with across x the probability that the alien chooses the letter B. Oh, there's no B in that word, so that means the probability is 0 because there's no B at all. So it's 0 out of 6. There is no B in it. So those are my two. Now let's look at number 8. Harsher buys 2 loaves of bread for £1 10p each. So 2 loaves of bread, but it's so 1 loaf costs me £1 10. So 2 loaves should cost me, I've gone from 1 to 2, so I need to multiply by 2 in this one. And whatever I'm doing on the left hand side, I need to do on the right hand side as well. So multiplying that by 2 should give me £2.20. You could add as well. You could add, because I'm doubling, you could add if you wanted to, and that gives me £2.20. And if you don't want to add, you could multiply as well. So £1 10 multiplied by 2. 2 times 0, 0, 2 times 1, 2. My decimal point for money, 2 times 1, 2. So that still gives me £2.20. £2.20 there. And so that's for the 2 loaves of bread. What else did he buy? 1 block of cheese for £2.35. 2 identical packs of meat. Hashir pays with a £10 note. He gets 95p change. Work out the cost of 1 pack of meat. So we know that the 2 loaves of bread cost him £2.20. We know that the 1 block will cost him £2. So the 1 block of cheese cost him £2.35. Now both of these is going to cost him what? So this 2 is going to cost him £4.55. £4.55p. Remember, he pays with a £10 note. So if I had £10 and I take out this, and I take out the £4.55, take it away. I have 0 here, so I can't take 5 from 0. So what do I need to do? I need to borrow 1 from this, and I'm left with 9 here. Put the 1 there, and I take 1 from there, put 1 here, so that's 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. Remember, these are not calculator paper, so your arithmetic has to be on point as well. And this is 4, and this is 5. So I have £5.45p. Remember, he gets a change of 95p. Gets a change of 95p. So I need to take that away. 95p, and that gives me 0. Take 1 from here. I'm left with 4. That gives me 10 there. That gives me £4.50. So that means this was for the change he had. That means all of this is left for. So we have there that the pack of meat, the 2 packs of meat, should cost him £4.50. So 1 pack What have I done from here? I've divided, I've halved. So I need to divide here by 2 as well. So £4.50 divided by 2. If you can do it in your head, that's fine. We can use this method. 2 goes into 4, 2 times, no remainder. 2 goes into 5, it can go 2 times, remainder 1. 2 goes into 10, 5. So I know that one pack should be £2.25p. So let's go back to the mark scheme and just see how the examiner would have allocated those marks. So we can see that our answer is correct. And for a process to add at least 3 of 10, 10, £2.35 and £0.95, if you were to add any 2 of it, sorry, any 3 of it, you get 1 mark. Or a process to find the total cost. So for a process to find how much was spent actually, so taking away your change, that gives you 1 mark. So those are the processes that if you do, you get at least 1 mark. And also or subtract at least 2 costs. So if you take away 2 costs, so that means it's the same thing as doing the 3 addition of your cost. So that would have given you 1 marker. So any of that will give you 1 mark. And for a complete process to find the cost of 2 packs of meat, for a complete process to find that cost of £4.50, you get your 2 marks. And for the final correct answer, you will get your final marks. And additional guidance can work in pounds, so you can work in pounds or pence, it doesn't matter. So if you wanted to convert all of your money into pence, that's fine. So that does not matter as well. Let's go back to number 9. Okay, on the circle below, draw a radius. So your radius is any line. It has to be a straight line using a ruler. Any line from the center of your circle to any part of your circumference. That's your radius. So any line from the center of the circle to any part of your circumference, I could have drawn this way, it doesn't matter. So from the center of your circle to any part of the radius, that's your radius. A chord, it's any line joining 2 parts of your circumference. That's a chord. So this line is called your chord. And just because we are on this, we can learn other parts of the circle as well. That's your circumference. So that's the distance around the circle. That's your circumference. We have this shaded part is your minor segment, and this other part, all of this other part is your major segment. This shaded part is your segment, your minor segment, because it's the smaller one. So a line that touches the circle at only one point is called a tangent. A tangent. So they can ask you any of this for you to identify any of these questions, any of these parts of the circle. So it's good for you to just have a knowledge of how to identify parts of the circle. So for a radius drawn, that's 1 mark. Mark intention, condone, or rule. So even if you didn't use a ruler, which I would advise you to use, they will still mark that right, except a diameter for a chord, because it's still joining 2 parts of our circle. And let's go back to our question. On the grid, draw a trapezium. Now, what makes a trapezium a trapezium? A trapezium will have some properties, and one of those properties is it has only 1 pair of parallel sides. So this is a trapezium because it has only 1 pair of parallel sides. I could have drawn it this way. It doesn't really matter as far as what I draw shows only one parallel side. So let's quickly just look at what the examiner was looking for a trapezium drawn. Accept any quadrilateral with at least one pair of parallel sides. So any quadrilateral, any four-sided shape with at least one pair of parallel sides will be acceptable. So next one, work out 245 times by 37. So for this one, I am going to give us two ways of solving this. And for 245, I'm going to put 200. I am going to put 40. I am going to put 5. And then I'm going to multiply by 30 and 7. So this is my grid method. So now multiplying by zeros now. So 200 times by 30, I'm going to do 2 times 3. I'm going to put 6. And how many zeros do I have in total? 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to put 3 zeros. That's 6,000. Next one, I have 3 times by 4. I'll put 12 down. And then how many zeros do I have? 2 zeros. Next one, 3 times by 5, I have 15. I have just 1 0 there. So I am actually doing 30 times by 5, but it's the same thing. So 30 times by 5 is the same thing as doing 3 times by 10 times by 5. And I'm multiplying this one first, 15 times by 10, and that gives me 150. So that's the way I'm doing it. So going to sevens now. 7 times by 2 gives me 14. I have 2 zeros in total in 7 and 200. Next one, 4 times by 7, that's 28. And I have just 1 0 from 40. 7 times by 5, that is 35. Now, it doesn't matter how you want to add it, but we need now to add everything in the grid. So everything in the grid, we need to add them all together. You can add them by rows or by columns. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to just choose to add them by rows. So this, I'm going to add them separately. 6,000 plus 1,200 plus 150. Be very careful. Cross-check that what you have written is coming from the grid so that you don't make mistakes, because sometimes students make mistakes with how they write their numbers, but that makes you lose a mark. You lose a mark. So it's always good for you to check what you have written is correct. So adding all of this gives me 0, 5, 3, and 7. That's from this. From this one, that's 1,400, 280, and you need to make sure your place value is correct as well. You remember, I'm not just putting these numbers randomly. I ensure that the place values are correct. And that gives me 5. 8 plus 3, that's 11. Take 1 up there. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 2 is 7, and 1. So all of that gives me 1715. So I need to add them now together to get my total answer. So I'm just going to write that separately now. So 7,350, 1,715. That gives me 5, sorry. So that gives me 5, that's 6, that is 10, and that is 9. So let's check our mark scheme. So that's 9,065. Now I'm going to do this in a different way now. I'm going to do this in a different way. So I'm going to clean all of this so that I can have some space. Okay, so solving it the second way. Let's have 245 times by 37. First one, 7 times by 5 is 35. I am going to put down 5 and carry 3. 7 times by 4 is 28, and that gives me 31. I'm going to put down 1 and carry 3. 7 times by 2 is 14, and that gives me 17 in total. 3 times by 3 times by 5 is 15. I'm going to put the place value first. 3 times by 5 is 15. I'm going to put that 5, carry my 1. 3 times by 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Put that 3, carry my 1. 3 times by 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So add them all together now. 5, 6, 10. So 965, which is the same as the grade method. So it does not really matter which method you use as long as you get to the correct answer. So that's the most important part of it. So next part, work out 570 divided by 15. Um, there are so many ways you could do this. If you are good with your times table, your 15 times table, you could just divide by 15. But I would advise when we have big numbers like this is the same thing as 570 all over 15. That's the same thing. And we can just start simplifying as much as we can. So we can see that both of them will be in the 5 times table because this ends in 0 and this is 15. 15 is the 5 times table. So I'm going to divide here by 5 and divide here by 5. That will give me 3. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And then 570 divided by 5, we can do that now step by step because it's an easier division to do. 570 divided by 5. 5 goes into 5, 1. 5 goes into 7, it goes there 1 time, but it has a remainder, 2. 5 goes to 20, 4 times. So that gives us 114. So we have 114 divided by 3. But how do I know the 3 can go into 114? A quick way to find out is to add all the numbers in 114. So 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 is in the 3 times table, so I know now that 3 can go into 114. So if I was to have a random number, let's say 2, 1, 2, 1, and 3, like this. This will be the 3 times table because if I add 2 plus 1, it gives me 3. 3 plus 1, it gives me 6. If I was to add another, let's say 6, and I had another 6 plus this, because all of this will give me 12, and 12 is the 3 times table. That means that this number will also be in the 3 times table. So that's a quick way for you to find out if a number is in the 3 times table. So I'm going to do 114 divided by 3. 3 cannot go into 1, so I look at the next one. 3 to 11 is 3 times, the remainder 2. 3 to 24 is 8 times, and that gives me 38. So let's look at a mark scheme and see where the marks would have gone for that. So I can see that that is 38 for complete method with relative place value. Correct. Example 3 with 10 place value. For complete method to write a fraction and cancel to a denominator of 1. So if you write a fraction and cancel to a denominator of 1, you get the method mark. For reaching digits 38, so correct. So that's how this would have been marked. Okay, this is on most of the exam papers now, foundation. You always see this question, so this is a good topic to know. So now our input is 2. So we have 2 plus 5 that produces 7. And then we have 7 times by 8 that produces an output of 56. So this is straightforward. So we have an input of -3, -3 plus 5, a number line. So -3 So minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So from minus 3, they want us to add 5 to it. So I'm going to go to my right 5 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that gives me 2. And then 2 times by 8, that gives me an output of 16. So that's how we've got into that. I'm going to clean this off. Then find the input when the output is 64. So in this case, you're working backwards now. So we have an output of 64. Now going backwards, the inverse or the opposite operation to multiply by 8 is divided by 8. So 64 divided by 8 should give us 8. And the inverse of adding 5 is subtracting 5. So 8 minus 5 should give us an input of 3. So that should give us 3. Here is a different number machine. So we have a different one now. When the input is 3, so we have an input of 3. The output is 18. They want us to find an operation, complete the number machine. So we have 3 times by 2 should give me 6. Now, how do I go from 6 to 18? It does not tell us if we have to use addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. But ways we can go from 6 to 18, we could add 12. That will give us that. So we could put plus 12 in there, and that's correct. Or we could also put multiply by 3. So either way, either of those operations should be correct. So checking the mark scheme for that. Let's see. So either plus 12 or multiplied by 3 gives us that answer, or negative 12, because or dividing by a third. So any of those operations will give us the same answer. So for this question, it's asking us, the table shows information about the favorite pets of students in years 7 and 8. So we need to think about how best can we represent this. We can represent it in so many ways, but the best and simple way we can do this is a bar chart. So we need to now think about how our scales will look like. I will need to have a key. So let's say the ones I shade is for year 7, and the ones I don't shade is for year 8. So let's say for dog we have 15. Just going to use my freehand sketch, but please use a ruler. I'll find better ways of doing this in the future. So that's for my year 7 dog, and for year 8 that should be 10. So I'm just going to go from here so I can say that's for dog. I'm going to put a space, and next one is 8 for my year 7 and 13, and that's for the cat. The next one I can have that as 2 and 6, and that's for the rabbit. And next one I have this 5 for hamster and 1. This is the number of pets, so I could write the number of pets, and these are telling me the number for each one. So that's how I would have done that. Now number 13. So when we add in fractions, the first thing that we should always do is to make our denominator the same. That gives you 1 mark. So my denominator has to be the same. Now, once it is the same, your examiner should give you 1 mark. So we're going to check in the mark scheme later. So, but how do I make it the same? That is where least common multiple comes in. I look at in the 12 times table and the 3 times table, what number is the least common one for both of them? And I know that that's 12. That's 12. What have I done? What have I multiplied by 12 to get 12? 1. So I need to multiply 7 by 1 as well, and that gives me 7. What have I multiplied by 3 to get 12? That's 4. I need to multiply 1 by 4, and that gives me 4 as well. And a common misconception or mistake that students make is to say 12 plus 12 is 24. Now, when you add in fractions, you don't add your denominator. So this is out of 12. So 7 plus 4 gives me 11. It's a very common mistake for students to write 11 over 24. That is wrong, please. Don't do that. Second part of it, work out 2 over 5 times 3 over 8. Give your answer as a fraction in its simplest form. So I have 2 over 5 times by 3 over 8. When we are multiplying fractions, all I have to do, numerator times by numerator, denominator times by denominator. That gives me 6 over 40. Now I need to simplify because they've asked for simplest form. If I don't simplify, I will lose the accuracy mark. I will lose 1 mark. So looking at this, 6 times table and 40 times table, what common factor do they have? What common number do they have in both the 6 and 20? They have both 2. They are both divisible by 2. So I'm going to divide both of them by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And 40 divided by 2 is 20. That gives me 3 over 20 as my final answer. Looking at the mark scheme, let's quickly have a look at that. And the first one was 11 over 12. So it says 4 over 12. So once you are able to get one fraction, so a quick way to get your marks for that is once you are able to get an equivalent fraction for one of your fractions, you get 1 mark. That's what that is saying. So once you're able to get an equivalent fraction for one of your mark, you get 1 mark for that. For using a suitable common denominator other than 12 with at least one of the two fractions correct. So if you get a common denominator with one of your fractions correct, you get the Mayton mark, and then your accuracy mark comes later. 3 over 20, correct answer. 6 over 40. Uh, so so if you simplify incorrectly, then you're going to lose 1 mark because they've given that a guidance. They do not ignore subsequent working for that accuracy mark. I'm going to show you the 2 ways we can solve it. Now, first way we can solve this is to clear fractions. Whenever we are solving anything that has to do with an equation that has to do with fractions, we can clear the fractions. And how do we clear fractions? We multiply each term in that equation by the denominator. So I'm going to multiply this by 5, and that is going to give me x. Multiply this by 5, and that gives me 10. Multiply this by 5, and that gives me 20. And then I'm going to do the inverse. Add 10 to both sides. And then I have x is equal to 10, 20 plus 10, 30. That is one way of doing it. The second way of doing it, so I first of all add 2 to both sides because that is the inverse of minus 2. So that gives me x over 5 is equal to 4 plus 2 gives me 6. And remember, to clear fractions, I do the inverse as well of division, which is multiplied by 5. Multiply by 5, and that gives me x is equal to 6 times by 5. That gives me 30, which is the same answer as what we have there. Same thing for this one. For me to do this, I can divide this side by 3, divide here by 3. I have 7y plus 2 is equal to 9. Then I have 7y is equal to 9 minus 2. 7y is equal to 7. And y is equal to 7 divided by 7, which is 1. There's one way of doing it. The second way of doing it is expanded by brackets. So if I expand this bracket, I have 21y plus 6 is equal to 27. And 21y is equal to 27 minus 6. And that gives me 21. y is equal to 21 over 21, which is 1. So both ways I will get 1 as my answer. Looking at the mark scheme, let's look at how the marks were given. So for a correct first step, example adds 2 to both sides. So if you were to do the inverse operation, if you were to just to do that inverse operation, you get 1 mark. Multiplies or you clear your fractions, you get 1 mark. So either of those steps will give you 1 mark. And then working forward, you have the final answer. For correctly expanding the brackets, for the second one, you get, so for expanding your bracket correctly, you get 1 mark. For dividing both sides by 3 as the first step, so either of those steps will give you 1 mark. So we have 2 kilograms of oranges that cost me £4.50, and we have 3 kilograms of oranges and 3 kilograms of bananas. They cost me £9.15. Work out the cost of 1 kilogram of bananas. Okay, so we could find what 1 kilogram of oranges will cost. What have I done here? Divided by 2, divide by 2 as well. So that will give me £2.25. So I know that 1 kilogram of orange will give me £2.25. So 3 kilograms of orange, 3 kilograms of orange, if one is £2.25, 3 multiplied by 3, multiplied by 3, so that should give me £6.75. So I've done that by knowing that 0.25 times by 3, that gives me 0.75, and then 3 times by 2, that gives me 6. So I've just added them together mentally. So I know that now 3 kilograms of oranges gives me £6.75. So for me to find what 3 kilograms of bananas are, I need to take what 3 kilograms of oranges cost me from that. So let's subtract 5 minus 5, 0. Or 7, we can't take 7 from 1, so reduce this to 1. 11 minus 7, that's 4. And then 8 minus 2, that's... Now, we know that this is the cost for 3. Sorry, that's the cost for 3 kilograms of bananas. So 1 kilogram will be £2.40 divided by 3, and that will be 80p. So 0.8. So looking at our mark scheme, that gives us 0.80. For process to find the cost of 1 kilogram of oranges, so dividing £4.50 by 2, that gives us that. So these are the steps we can follow. We always have a knot. We always take measurements from knots. So this is pot B. I'm taking the measurement from the knot. This point is 0. Let me use a different color now. This point is 0. This point is 90. This is 180. This is 270. And coming back there is 360. So we from pot B, 120 should be between 90 and 180. It does not really matter how accurate that is, but you indicating that this is 120, that's fine, that's good enough. So remember, your measurement should always come from knots. So the bearing of pot A from pot B, so this is my pot A now. So the bearing of pot A from pot B is 120. So we take the measurements from the knots, work out the bearing of pot B from A. So starting from our knot now, We go all the way like this until we get to this point. So we know that here is at this point, I'm going to use the red now. Here is 90, 180 is 270. So we need to find out what this remaining part is. And we can find that out because we know that alternate angles are equal. Here is 90, here is 30 to give you 120. This angle is alternate to this angle. They are the Z angles. When you have two parallel lines, this angle is equal to this angle because they are alternate angles. Alternate angles. So this angle is 30. Remember, we've added this is 90, 180, 270, 270 plus 30 should give me 300. So that angle should be 300. Checking a mark scheme, we see we have 300 there. For a correct process to find a bearing, so we have 300 there. So this question is about stem and leaf. The first thing we need to think about when we're doing stem and leaf is to find what the smallest and what the biggest number is, because that will help us to form our stem. Looking at all the numbers I have there, I can see that 2.8 is my smallest, and the biggest number I can see there is 5.2. That means my number is going to start with a stem of 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's going to be my stem. The next thing I need to put a key. That's 2 slash 8 means what? It means 2.8. So I'm putting a key now. So those are the two important things we need to have. We need to find what the smallest and the biggest number to form our stem, and then we need to give us what a key is. So looking at that now, this was my smallest. I take that off. I'm going to put that as 8. There's just going to be one number there. So looking at my three stems now, uh, 3.2. So I'm going to put there as 2. Uh, 4.5, that goes in this one. 3.4, that goes 4 there. 4.1, that goes 1 there. 4.0, that goes 0 there. 5.0, that goes 0 there. 3.5, that goes 5 there. 3.7, 4.1, 4.9, 3.5, 3.9, 3.8. Now we have to put a stem and leaf in order, because that's the whole purpose of a stem and leaf, to put our numbers in order. So ideally we should have drawn our own rough first and then transfer the ordered one into the given stem and leaf. So what I mean by that, 8, that's the highest number there. For 3, we can see that 2 comes first, 4 comes second, 5 and 5 comes next, 7 comes next, 8 and then 9. So I've done everything there. Next one, 4, 0 comes first. We have the 2 ones, we have 5, we have 9. And for 5, we have 0, and I almost missed my 2. So that is the correct stem and leaf. So I would have drawn this first and then transfer the correct one into this grid that has been given to me. So let's quickly have a look at. So we have there 0, 2. I think that's correct. Find the range of the weights. So range means the highest take away the smallest. So the highest here is 5.2, the smallest is 2.8. Let me put that in order. 5.2, 2.8, 2.4 kilogram. We look at number 18. Here is a recipe for making 12 flapjacks. This is a question that comes out a lot. So mastering this kind of question is really important because you're going to see it on every paper one. something about recipe, something about proportion. So it's a good question to master. So a good mindset is now to, if you feel that you always get this wrong, to always master them, to practice them. So here is a recipe for making 12 flapjacks. Ingredients for 12 flapjacks: 250 gram oats, 120 butter, 120 sugar, 2 tablespoons of syrup. Josiah wants to make 30 flapjacks. Work out how much of each ingredient he needs. So for 30, how many 12s do I have in 30? We have 12, another 12, and then we have 6. So you can see that he will need double and then half. So 2.5. For us to make 30, we can make 12 first, because we have the ingredients we have is to make 12. So we can make 12, we can make another 12, and then we can we're left with 6 to make that 30. So I'm going to double it to get 500, and that's to make 24. So that's 500, that's 240, that's 240, and that is 4. And then for the remaining 6 to make that 30, I'm going to half each of these original ones, and that gives me 125, 160, sorry, 60, and then 1. So if I want to find for tablespoons for 30, I'm going to have 5. For sugar, 240 plus 60 should give me 300, and that should be the same for butter as well. And lastly, we have 500 plus 125, that gives me 625. So we look at a max scheme. What do we get from a max scheme? 625, 300, 305. It says expand and simplify. So I'm going to expand this. So 5 times by x gives me 5x. 5 times by 6 gives me 30. 2 times by 7 gives me 14. And be careful of this negative there. 2 times by minus x gives me minus 2x. Now, common, I need to add like terms. I can't add unlike terms, but I can add like terms. So 5x, take away 2x, I have 3x. 30, take away 14, they are like terms, they are numbers. And that gives me 44. Remember, put your answer on the number line there. Factorize 9y squared minus 15y. Now, to factorize means to bring out the common factors. So what is common factor of 9 and 15? I can both see them in the 3 times table. What else is common? Y is common to both of them. And I have 3y there minus 5. A quick way to check if your answer is correct is to multiply, is to expand them, to do the inverse of factorizing, which is expanded, and that gives you that. Write down the value of 2 to the power of 0. Anything to the power of 0 will always give you 1. It does not matter if it's a million. If it's a million to the power of 0, that gives you 1. Whatever to the power raised to the power of 0, that gives you 1. So let's just check our answer quickly. So we have the 3x plus 44, that's correct, and 3y bracket 3y minus y. For partial factorizations, if you factorize partially, you get 1 mark, and the remaining one is 1 mark. So anything to the power of 0, that gives you 1 mark. That gives you 1. So Ian cycled 44 kilometers in 2 hours and 12 minutes. Work out Ian's average speed. So speed, one way to always get this right is to know what your units are. So we know that speed is measured in miles per hour. We know that, we can always remember that. And miles is measured in distance. Distance is for miles and the R is for a time. That tells me that speed is equal to distance over time. That's if you forget your triangle. That speed is equal to distance over time. If you forget this, go back to what the go back to what the units are. So we know the speed is distance over time. Work out Ian's average speed. Give your answer in kilometers per hour. So we need to convert this 12 minutes now into hours because it's asking us everything has to be in kilometers per hour. So 2 hours and 12 minutes. We need to convert this 12 minutes into hours. So we know that 30 minutes is zero point 0.5 hours. But how do we know that? 30 divided by 60, that gives us a half, which is zero point 0.5 hours. So that's the strategy we are going to use now. So let's go now and convert 12 minutes out of 60, and we know that that goes there 1, that goes there 5, and 1/5 is the same thing as zero point 0.2. So that tells me that that should be 2.2 hours in total because I have 2 hours plus zero point 0.2 hours, which gives me 2.2 hours. So my speed now should be distance is 44 divided by 2.2 hours. Work out the average speed. So I can see that both of them, uh, I can divide. A quick way to do this, I'm going to multiply by 10, so that gives me 440 divided by 22. Just removing this decimal point, and 2 goes here, 1, 2 goes to 44, 2, 2 goes there, 0. So that is 20 kilometers per hour. 20 kilometers per hour, and that's correct. So for a method using distance over time, so once you use 44 over whatever time, and that value you're using is your time, you get 1 mark for that process because you've used the correct method. For this mark, accept time written unconventionally or rounded hours. So once you try to use that value as time, you get that 1 mark. The scatter graph shows the stopping distance for some cars traveling at different speeds. So what are they asking us to do now? What type of correlation does the graph show? We can see that the trend in this is going upwards. That's the trend. And that is a positive correlation. Why is it a positive correlation? Because for every increase in speed, the stopping distance increases as well. So as one value increases, the other value increases as well. That is a positive correlation. So that's how we can tell that is a positive correlation. So I am going to put that there, positive correlation. Another car is traveling at a speed of 55 miles per hour. Estimate the stopping distance of this car. Now, for us to estimate using this scattered graph, we have to use a ruler. And I don't have a ruler, I can't find one now, but using a ruler, you draw a straight line going through majority of the numbers and having either points on either side, almost equal number of points on either side. So that's how you use this. So I'm just going to draw a rough one, something like this. And it's not very accurate, but I'm just giving you an idea on how to use that. So it says another car is traveling at a speed of 55 miles per hour. So looking at 55, I would have gone to 55. Let me increase this. So 55 would have been at this point. So tracing that upwards, all of this should be done using the ruler, which I don't have. Now, wherever point you use there, draw it back. So about 68. That's what, but questions like this, you're going to have a range. So even if I've just done a freehand sketch, um, 68 is my answer. 68 is my answer. It should fall within the range. It might not be the most accurate one, but it should fall. So anything between 60 and 70 is correct. So you will see there, they're going to give you your 2 marks there. So that's why it's important, for you to just have the knowledge and the idea. Sana says it will not be possible to use this cartograph to estimate the stopping distance of a car traveling at a speed of 10 miles per hour because the estimate would not be reliable. Is Sarah correct? Let's look at it. So we can see that the first point is at 20 miles per hour. So Sarah is correct because our first point is at 20 miles per hour. And if we were to go to 10 miles per hour, we are going to have, we might have a negative stopping distance, which is wrong. So she is correct. It will not be reliable for us to measure 10 miles per hour. So for this one, we have four containers, A, B, C, and D, and we need to match how these containers will be filled based on the graphs. So for the first one, it's going to be constant when we pour water into it. It's going to take an equal, it's going to be steady. So that means it's going to be a straight line graph. So for that one, I am going to put A, that's going to be 3. For B, we can see initially when we put the water, we have a wider space, and then because it gets narrower, the time goes up sharply. So that should be 4 for that one for B. For C, it's a narrower time and then it takes longer. It gradually goes up, so that should be 1. And lastly, we have 2. So checking our mark scheme, let's have a look. We have 3. What we had was 3, 4, 1, 2. We have 3, 4, 1, 2. So that's correct. This question says the diagram shows a rectangular wall of 10 meters by 3.3 meters. A rectangular door in the wall is 2 meters by 1.5 meters. So we can see the door and we can see the wall. Zach is going to mix yellow paint and blue paint in the ratio 1:4 to paint the wall. So he's going to paint the wall. He will not paint the door. He's going to only paint the wall, which is this part, without painting this part. Without painting this part. He's not going to paint this part. So, looking at that, Zach assumes that 1 liter of paint will cover 10 meters squared. So 1 liter will only cover 10 meters squared. Yellow paint is sold in 1 liter, tints costing £4.75 each, and blue paint is sold in 1 liter, costing £5.50. Zach has £20 to buy paint. Does Zach have enough money to buy all the paint he needs? So we need to know how much paint or how much of the area is he going to paint. That's a very logical place to start from. So looking at the area that he's going to paint, I look at my area for the wall is 10 times by 3.3, which gives me 33, and the area for the door gives me 2 times by 1.5, which is 3. So that means the area to be painted will be 33 minus 3, which is 30 millimeters squared. Yeah, 30 meters squared. So that's the area to be painted. Now, the next set of questions for us to ask. So yellow paint is sold in this. We know now that he will need, how many liters of paint will he need? He says he assumes that 1 liter of paint will cover 10 meters squared, but he's going to paint an area of 30 meters squared. So that means for he's going to need 3 liters 3 liters of paint. That is what he needs. He needs 3 liters of paint. Let me write that properly. So what he needs is 3 liters of paint. If you're not sure how I got the 3 liters, we can see there that 1 liter is covering 10 meters squared, and what the area he needs to paint is 30 meters squared. What have I done here? I've multiplied by 3. Do the same on this side. I have 3 liters, so that's how I got my 3 liters. Now, the second thing we need to know is what's the proportion of the paint he's going to use to mix. So we know that out of that 3 liters, we have 5 parts, because 1 part is for blue, sorry, 1 part is for yellow. For every 1 part, we have 4 parts for blue. So total we have 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that will be yellow, and that will be blue, 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 and blue. And that tells me we have 3 liters. So that means a fifth of the 3 liters is 3/5, which is 0.6 liters, and that's for the yellow. And we have 4/5 of the 3 liters for blue, and that gives me 2.4 liters. And since they are sold in 1 liters, for yellow we will just need 1 liter. Write that properly. For yellow we'll just need 1 liter, which is going to cost me £4.75. For blue, it is 2.4 liters, but they are sold in 1 liter, so that means we're going to need 3 liters, and that will cost me £5.50 times by 3, and that will give me £16.50. Adding this together, that gives me £21.25, and that is more than the £20 he has. So no, in this kind of question, you always have to make a statement, because they've asked you, does Zach have enough money to buy all the paint he needs? You must show you're working. This is all my working on this page. Now I have to make a statement. So I have to say either yes or no. And based on my calculations, I would say no. I'll give a reason. He needs 25p more. Oh, sorry, £1 and 25p more. That's what he needs, because he has just £20, so he does not have enough money. So if I was to check the mark scheme and see what would have happened there, it says there for process. Okay, I'm not going to read all of that, but you can see the answer mark for no and a total cost of that from correct values. That's where you get your marks from. Okay, now let's look at Zach's assumption is wrong, and 1 liter of paint will cover more than 10 meters. So we go back to, if 1 liter, so going back to this now, if 1 liter will cover more, and he had 30, so let's assume he's going to cover 15. So if he's covering more, that means he will need less liters. He will need less liters, because 1 liter will cover, you will need less liters. And that means how Zach's assumption is wrong, and 1 liter will cover more than that. How might this affect your answer to part A? You must explain your answer. That means um, since the value is not given, we it might be less. It might be less, but we know that it might be less. So acceptable answers, we can't tell. It depends how much more it will cover. So yep, it will depend on the values that we use. He may be able to afford it as he will need less pens, as we stated earlier. So we know already that he will need less pens. So let's go to the next one. Almost there. The diagram shows two quarter circles with the same center. Work out the area of the shaded section. So they need this area. So for us to find this area, we just need to find the area of the bigger uh, quarter circle, take away the area of the smaller quarter circle. It says give your answer in terms of pi. So that means we don't have to um, use decimals. We can leave our answer in terms of pi. So now for, let's call the bigger one A, and let's call the smaller one B. So we know that the area of a circle is pi radius squared, but we're looking for a quarter, so we have to use a quarter of that. So a quarter times pi times the radius of the bigger one is 4. So 4 squared is 16, and that gives me 4 pi, because 4 goes here 1, 4 goes here 4. I have 4 pi. This is for the bigger one. For the smaller one, same formula. I have a quarter times pi times, what is my radius now? My radius is 3 squared, which is 9. So a quarter pi times by 9. So that gives me 9 pi over 4. Now the bigger one is 4 pi minus 9 over 4 pi. So this is subtracted 4. So we have 4 over 1 minus 9 over 4. Common denominator 4. What have I done here? Times here by 4 times here by 4. 16 minus times here by 1 times here by 1. 9. That's 5. Sorry. 16 minus 9 is 7 over 4. And that is 1. 1 and 3 over 4 pi. So we can leave it as 7 over 4 pi as our answer. Look at the mark scheme and see what the mark scheme says. 7 over 4 pi, that's correct. So the same process. Let's see, allow Pmax for working with pi as 3.14 or that. But your final answer has to be in terms of pi, because that was the instruction that was given. Now they're asking us to find the equation for L. Give your answer in the form y is equal to mx plus c. So when we are looking for, we are trying to write an equation from a graph. This tells me, so y is equal to mx plus c. The c is my y-intercept, where that line touches the y-axis, and that is at -2. So c is -2. Now I need to find my gradients. That's the next thing. I can see that this is sloping downwards. So I can pick any 2 points. So I'm going to pick this point and this point, because they pass through one of these crosses. So it's easier for me to read my value. So that's why I'm picking those points. It's easier for me to read my values there. So I can now say from this point to this point, looking at my scale, that is 2 units. From this point to this point, that is, so we have 4, that is a total of 6, but I'm going downwards, so that's -6 units. So our gradient is the change in y over change in x. That is my gradient. So the change in y is minus 6 and the change in x is 2 because it's a positive 2 is going this way and this is coming downwards to the line. So that's minus 3. So that means my equation becomes y is equal to minus 3x minus 2. Looking at we have minus 3x minus 2. That's correct. And let's have this number 26. It says given that cos, so cos 60 is equal to a half. What are the value of x? So they want us to find the value of x. So we have this angle, this side is my opposite because it is opposite to the given angle, and this is my hypotenuse because it's the longest side and it's opposite the right angle triangle, and this side is it's going to be my adjacent. The sides we are interested in is the adjacent A and the hypotenuse H because we have values for those ones, and that fits into, so we have a SOHCAHTOA, SOHCAHTOA, and A and H fit into car. So we know that the cosine of that angle 60 is equal to A comes first, so it's the adjacent, over the hypotenuse, which is 15. And what did I say? We clear fractions. So x is equal to 15 times of cos 60. But we're told that cos 60 is a half, so 15 times a half, which is 7.5. And that is our answer there. So that's 7.5. Looking at a mark scheme, we have 7.5 there. For this question, A is to B is to 3. B is to D is to 5. And C is to D is to 1. We're trying to find what A is to C. So we can see that B, they are common. So I could make them have a common number, which is 6. That's the lowest common number. So if I make here 6 and here 6, I have times here by 2, I have times here by 3. So I need to times here by 2 to give 4, to times here by 3 to get 15. So now I have that when A is to B is to D. So I have 4 is to 6 is to 15. And I know that when C is 2, D is 1. So if my D is 15, that means my C is going to be 30. So when my D is 15 there, my C is going to be 30. So looking at A is to C, that gives me 4 is to 30, which is 2 is to 15. So that's a logical way of arriving at the answer, and that's what we have there, 2 is to 15. That's going to be the end of our review. Feel free to ask me questions, put comments. Feel free to reach out to me, and I hope we have more of this in the future. And stay in touch. Bye for now. Thank you.